to put our spacesuits on again to make sure that they're finally completely up and ready for the actual event. As you mentioned, we'll get a chance to climb into the Dragon capsule, strap in, and walk through the pre-launch timeline inside the vehicle. That'll involve riding in the Teslas out to the launch pad, going through that whole exercise just to polish the team one more time prior to the launch. And then, of course, the big show on the 27th you're familiar with. We will have our families in town here in a few days and get a chance to spend time with them. They've been observing a pretty tight quarantine to make that a possibility, and so I think both Doug and I are really excited to spend some time out at the conference center, right, Colonel Cabana, the conference center, the formerly known as the Beach House. Get a chance to go and visit that facility and maybe start a tradition or two out there with our families as a part of the new era that we're embarking on.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this will be our last question.
Hi, gentlemen. Mike from Fox 35 in Orlando.
Hi, Mike.
So you guys have been training for this for such a long time, and then you get this wrinkle called the coronavirus. So I wonder how that changed preparation for this mission. You planned, you got all ready, and then this was like the monkey wrench. So what will you tell us about how that made things different?
Well, I think just as every person standing here and every person in the United States and around the world, this has been, I think, it's been a huge wrinkle, to say the least, to adjust everyone's lives and how we do business and how we train and how we operate. It's been a huge, obviously, shift for everybody. But I think for us in particular, it was challenging because we were at that phase probably the last year and a half, where we were traveling to SpaceX literally every week, and we had to come up with ways to make sure that not only did we keep the teams that we were working with safe, but obviously ourselves safe and our families. So I can't emphasize enough of how quickly the folks out in Hawthorne, because that's where we did a majority of the Dragon training, responded and did everything that they could to keep us safe. And obviously they did great work, as well as the folks at Johnson and NASA. And we had to come up with a lot of unique ways to continue the training without too big of a speed bump. And I that is, there have been so many things over the course of the last several years that have amazed me, but that certainly is high on the list, because just for the absolute complete shift that people had to do in the way they just did anything in their normal lives completely changed. And to continue training not only on Dragon, but getting our training on Space Station before we left was also important, and the teams just really came together and pulled it off. So I it'll be something that we'll have to talk about in a lot more detail after the flight, just how people just really stepped up. It was really a neat thing to see.
Okay, so I know that was the last question. I'm going to take liberty and ask one final question, if that's okay. You guys have been communicating with me, and I've seen that as you are blazing this trail, and you really are blazing a trail, each of you has shown me from time to time new traditions that you are establishing. And it's hopeful that those traditions will carry on and maybe even be added to in the future. Would each of you share some of your thoughts on what are the new traditions that you have already established? I know there's going to be more. We've got another week before launch. But as far as where we are right now, what are some of those new traditions that you have established?
Let's see, I think back at my home in Houston, we took the opportunity to do something that's pretty common from an astronaut perspective around the world, which is to plant a tree someplace. And so I've done it in Baikonur. Crews do that in Kazakhstan on their way to launch on the Soyuz. And I took the opportunity with my family to do a tree planting, so not necessarily a public sort of event, but a personal sort of an event. And so my son will always have that lemon tree that he was a part of planting, that hopefully it makes it through Houston's hot summer this year and becomes a tradition for some other folks as well.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I'll talk about, we yesterday had our final proficiency sim with SpaceX. They have a facility in Houston, and so We used to do a little bit of what we call tagging in the service. What it is essentially is putting a sticker on the simulator for your mission when you're complete with the training. And so yesterday, Bob and I put the DM2 sticker on the SpaceX simulator in Houston as kind of a continuing tradition. And I think the administrator brings up a great point there. You know, we feel somewhat responsible to continue some of these really neat traditions that both the Soyuz crews have had for many years and the shuttle crews have had, and then maybe come up with a few of our own. And as we go through this journey, we'll certainly share some more of those.
Well, I want to thank you, Bob and Doug, for taking the time. I know there's a lot of work to do between now and launch, taking the time to spend with us and share some of your stories with the media. You really are a bright light for all of America right now. And this mission is a bright light for all of America. We're so grateful for your sacrifice. And I can tell you, when I grow up one day, I want to be like Bob and Doug. So thank you so much for all you've done and all you're about to do. And thank you to the media for coming to cover this great event. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Go ahead.